Hey, welcome. It's Brian, and today we are going to talk about my top five favorite metal guitar players from the 80s. And some of these players may actually have recorded output in the 70s all the way through the 2000s and 2010s. So we are just going to concentrate on the 80s material for the most part. So they may have fallen out of grace, in my opinion, later on. So with that said, we are going to start with Randy Rhoads, which unfortunately, of all these players, had the least amount of recorded output. Two Quiet Riot records, which to be honest, I haven't heard in a long time, not my favorite. And then two Ozzy records, and then the live tribute record from Ozzy. These records to me, The Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, super important. My first show ever was Motorhead and the Blizzard of Oz tour in 1981 or 80. So I'm not sure exactly what year, but it was very, very kind of eye opening to see Randy live. Had lots of cool pictures of him and all of that. Long gone, unfortunately. But anyway, Randy to me is one of the most important rock players to come out of the 80s. And obviously, his influence is still kind of felt today and pretty amazing considering that low amount of output. But I think his feel, his technique, and just kind of the cool scale usage that he did, and all those runs, and all the triple tracking, and compositionally is where he was really amazing. Some really incredible compositions from him for sure. I wish we would have had him more and had more records from him, like any true Randy fan would say. So Randy Rhoads, he's on this top five list of mine. Next is John Sykes, who's another guy that doesn't have tons of recorded output, except he did a record with Thin Lizzy, which I love. It's a very maligned record for a lot of reasons. It doesn't sound great, but Thunder and Lightning is a great record by Thin Lizzy. And if you see any of the very small amount of footage of John playing with Thin Lizzy on the live tour or that tour for that record, he is mind blowing. He is an incredible guitar player. He moved on from there to go to Whitesnake, and I believe what was his other band, Blue Murder. I think that might have been another one. So very low amount of recorded material from what I know of, but on that Thin Lizzy record and even the Whitesnake stuff, some really tasty and incredible chops oriented guitar playing with just some really unique approaches to doing cool, memorable riffs. And you can't argue with Whitesnake. To be honest, not one of my favorite bands, but man, when he wrote a song or a riff, it was kind of really pulled you in for sure. Next is Glenn Tipton, which, as you know, probably started his recording career in the early 70s. The first Judas Priest record, Rock'n'Rolla, I think came out in 74. Sad Wings of Destiny, an incredible record. And I love Judas Priest, and I think Glenn is not talked about enough as far as I'm concerned. And we're going to basically talk about that 80s career. To me was kind of when they kind of got less interesting. So, but I have to mention him because that stuff in the 80s he was doing, guitar solo wise, was so unique to me. There's like some kind of sweep, kind of arpeggiated stuff going on, but just an incredible feel. And he just always had the perfect guitar solos for the music. It always fit. So in the 80s, we would have had Screaming for Vengeance. I like that record quite a bit. That was one of their biggest records as far as sales. And then we go into Defenders of the Faith, Turbo, getting successively worse, in my opinion, but yet his playing still was really, really vital and important. And obviously now he has, I believe, a kind of pretty debilitating Parkinson's case. So the last time I saw him, he got up and played a couple of songs with the band. Obviously, he was not in his prime, but he can still do it. So that was great to see as well. Next is Chris DeGarmo from Queensryche. I don't know what it is with Queensryche, but one of my first and favorite sort of new wave of British heavy metal bands that came from the States or Canada in their case, I believe. Or is it Washington? I live in Washington or have lived in Washington, so I should know. Anyway, an incredibly cool band. I love the first record, The Warning, and the EP. And then when we talk about Operation Mindcrime, a really cool, amazing record. Those are the three records I really concentrate on. I don't really know much past Empire, which I was not a huge fan of, but those three or four records that I love, super important, super tasty guitar player, incredible songwriting, incredible riff writing. The solos were high impactful, kind of melodic, not necessarily over the tops, chops wise, but just always had a great statement. Michael Wilton, I believe, is the other guitar player. Now, those guys might have been sharing a lot of the solos. I think that's how it worked. But as far as a twin guitar group, they really kind of worked really cohesively together. So uh, if Michael did a lot of the guitar solos, I guess I should say him, but I'm just going to kind of say it was Chris that did a lot of them. I've had quite the Queensryche re emergence, I guess, as far as listening lately, so really into them. Last on this list is Tony Iommi, who is one of my all time favorite guitar players of all time, a top five player no matter what, and has been since the late 70s. Uh, in the 80s, we obviously had the two Ronnie James Dio records, Heaven and Hell, and then Mob Rules, incredible records. And then we have Born Again with Ian Gillan, which I personally love that record. I would not say it's his best guitar work, but I really, really love that record. Now, after that, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Even the record with Dio Dehumanizer, not a huge fan, although that record does have Eye on it, which is one of my favorite Dio era Black Sabbath songs. And then we don't really get another great Black Sabbath album, or more like Heaven and Hell, till Ronnie joins the band back in, I don't even know, 2012. And we get, I think, one record that I'm kind of forgetting what the name of it is. So, anyway, and we, of course, got Black Sabbath 13. But we're just talking about the 80s stuff there. And I think those two first records with Dio are almost as important as some of the best with the stuff with Ozzy. Almost. And I think, again, Born Again is much maligned, but I personally love it. And it's a huge favorite amongst me and my son, who is another huge Black Sabbath fan. So that is it. Here is the list as I told them to you. Randy Rhoads, John Sykes, Glenn Tipton, Chris DeGarmo from Queensryche, and of course, Tony Iommi. So thanks for joining me. Name your top five. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm Brian. I'll see you soon.